Hi, my name is Daniel Holøs. I'm the co-founder of MakeKit. I'm an engineer and I love to be creative and use that creativity to create stuff. Now here at MakeKit we make drones, hovercraft and other microbit games. So they are engaging and gives you a sense of achievement in especially technology, but all of the STEM subjects. This is an introductory episode where I want to introduce you to making things in TinkerCAD, which is a great tool if you're a beginner or if you may want to make something quick. Now in this episode I will make a name tag for your keychain. Now this can be laser cutted like this is, or you can 3D print it. First a little bit about TinkerCAD. So if you're a beginner, it's a great tool. However, if you have experience with Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, for instance, you will find that it has some disadvantages. It is built around one skeleton, and you have to use that all the time to make basically all the shapes that you want to make. Now, it is kind of quick to get started with. You do want a computer, and you do really need a mouse to use it. It's not so good if you have an iPad or other tablets, but if you have a mouse, you can probably get by. So let's dig into our challenge for the day. Now this is TinkerCAD. I have already opened it. I have logged on. If you're a student, you can even get a code from your teacher, so you can get directly in. Now let's start creating a design. So you take the quick create design. Now when you get started, you will probably get some tutorials. I recommend taking those. They will give you the head tour of the program, but I will give you this right now as well. Now if we start over here at the left side, we will see perspective. So you can switch from flat view to perspective view. So right now it's in flat view and I want to switch back to perspective. Now I recommend using flat view. I like that the best. I can show you why later. So here you have zoom, plus and minus. You have fit in view or home. These two are great if you are lost in space. So if you have dragged this over here and you really can't find home, then you can just click home and you're back. Here you have a square, and this allows you to rotate the workspace that you're in. And the great thing here is that, let's say that I want to build something directly from the top. I just click top and it goes straight to the top. Same goes for all the other directions here. So here you have copy, paste, duplicate, trash can, back or forward if you made a mistake or something like that. Here you have, if you have made some notes, you can toggle the visibility of those. You have show all. This is if you have created a design which you have hidden, and then you can show the design later. You can also switch the color of it like this. This is helpful if you have multiple shapes that you are using. But we can delete this one for now. Here you have a great tool. You have group. Now what this does is, let's say that I have two shapes here, just random shapes, and I want to group those. Now they become one shape. This is a great tool. And here you have mirror. So let's say that I want to mirror this to the other direction. I use these arrows here to mirror, like this. So now it's on the opposite side. This is a great tool if you're building something symmetrically. So let's say that you're doing that, then I want to copy this drag it a little bit over here, then mirror, and then I drag this one onto the side like this, and then we have one complete shape. Even if I turn this around, we almost see something familiar, like this. So over here you have import. So if you have some design that you want to import onto your work plane, then you can do that. Export, we will use this later. Here you have for 3D printing or for laser cutting, or you can even send it. Here you have the work plane tool. This means that you can move your work plane. So let's say that you are working on a complex design, and you now want to start working on top of this. Then you can place the work plane on this surface. So now all your new objects will be up here. This is probably for more advanced use of the program. So that's the work plane, and this is something that I always use and I think is almost necessary. This is the ruler. Now this allows you to place objects in exact spaces. So we have placed that one onto here. Now you see that I managed to snap it on directly here. This is due to the snap grid, which you find down here. So you can choose between 2 millimeters down to 0.1 millimeter. This is really helpful. Now what this ruler does is if I place a square here, I get the measurements right here. And this is super helpful. This means that if I want to have this like 10 times 20, I can see it. It also allows you to place this one onto the work plane and know exactly where this shape is. Now it has endpoint and you can use midpoint. This means that let's say I want to place this directly in the center. I can just go 0 and 0. Now if I only have one shape, maybe not so useful, but if you're working with multiple shapes, and let's say that you're also working with something that you want to be symmetrically, then this is a super great tool. Okay? And this is actually what we're going to do today. So we can start off by using this shape here. Here I have some other shapes. I've star marked the ones that I use primarily. You also have different shapes down here, and you can also toggle between many different types of shapes here. But I find the basic shapes are the ones that you use 99% of the time. Here you also have nodes. This is something that I almost never use. But let's start to make the name tag. Now I want to make this into a square name tag. And I want to make this round in the corners. Now here you will find some obstacles that TinkerCAD gives, but I will show you a way to do this without being too creative with multiple shapes and cutting and so on. So let's say that we want to have this, let's say 5 centimeters wide. This means 50 millimeters, and let's say 10 millimeters wide. And now I want to have this round in the edges. So then I choose a radius here. And to make this into a complete radius, you see the problem here is that it starts to round the surfaces quite strange. So what we need to do here is we need to go back to hard edges, and then we need to make it completely square. So we go back to the 20, and then we put on some radiuses. Let's say radius on 3 something, it doesn't really matter. Now we can start to manipulate the size of it. So we go out like this, choose 10. Now it has some round edges here. But I do not want the top and bottom to have round edges. So what do? Well, one thing that you can do is cut them. So I place a cutting box here. You can actually choose between solid and hole. So I'm going to use this to cut the top and bottom of my shape here. So I just move this a little bit further to the top, go directly above, and then place it over the whole thing. And now I can simply just chop it away. And you choose the group design. And now I do the same thing below. Now I'm going to do this in a little different way. I'm going to choose to go -10, so it stays below the whole surface. And now I will place this underneath my object. And instead of moving this up, I move my object down. So let's go to the front, and I move this down let's say like this. We can adjust this more later. So let's cut this off. So we now have an object with round surfaces here, but it's straight on the top and bottom. Now this is something that is especially crucial if you're going to laser cut it. If you're 3D printing it, doesn't matter that much, but it can, because it might not stick as well to your bed on your 3D printer. Now we see that this is 5 millimeters tall. So I want to reduce this a little bit. I want to reduce this to 3 millimeter. Now it will lift a little bit because I have chosen midpoint on my ruler. So then I go back to end point. Now I can do 3 millimeter like this. So now I went back to midpoint. So now let's have a hole here. We need a hole for the keychain. And we just place this hole tool, the cylinder, straight in here. Let's go for 5 millimeters now. You can of course do your own thing. I'm just checking out how this looks. If you see that when I'm moving it, I always click a little bit away. Now the reason I do this before I move it is that I don't want to accidentally take hold of one of these edges here. And this is especially if you're working on a place that is perspective view. So you see in perspective view, you see the whole thing. And the problem now is that if I accidentally choose to drag this one, it starts moving away from the surface. And this can cause some issues where you see multiple objects are all over the place, really. So now we can go back here, and like I said, I like to work in flat view. Gives you a better view of the whole situation and where you are. So let's place this in the middle like this, and then I drag this over here. I think you can have it approximately there. Now I have to go in the middle there again. Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay, let's put our names in. I'm just going to do that. Text area here. So I'm going to write in my name. So here you can choose between different fonts. Let's go for something, I'm just going to go for something standard. And here you can choose also the size of the letters. Now it is 10, so let's just put it down to 9. And then shrink it a little bit, like this. Now is it going to fit there? No, probably not. We need to shrink it a little bit more. Okay, let's go for 8 there. Okay, now let's place it in the middle here maybe, so we see how it actually looks. So there we go. Now I want to have this I wanted to have this a little bit above the surface, but not this much. Now you can see that it's quite hard to see the letters that I put in here. So then we can choose a different color to separate them, like this. Okay, now we know that this shape here, the red one, is 3 millimeter. So that means that we can choose this one to be maybe 4.5 or 5 for that matter. Now before I do this, make sure to use endpoint instead of midpoint. And then we choose 5 millimeters, see how that looks, maybe a little too much. 4.5, okay, that's good enough. This will do for 3D printing. That means that your letters are going to pop a little bit above the surface that you're working on. Because this is 3 millimeter, it's maybe a little too thick for 3D printing. So if you are planning to 3D print this shape, I would probably go down to maybe 2, maybe even 1.5 millimeters and see how that looks. 3 millimeter can be a little thick. So now we just need to combine these surfaces here by using this tool, the group tool. And there we go. Here the shape is complete and ready to export. So now I'll choose this one. If you're doing 3D print, I normally go for the STL option. But this one I'm going to laser cut. This of course means that the letters aren't going to pop out of the shape. It's going to be engraved instead. But it's very important that you don't have any other shapes going on the thing, because that can be hard to differentiate when you're trying to laser cut it. Choose the SVG option, it downloads, and now I can go over to the laser cutter and continue from there. So that was it from today. I recommend going into also makekit.no to check out more projects that you can do where you can enable the creative tools of TinkerCAD to create maybe your own designs on either the hovercraft or the airbit. Now in the next video I'm going to do a little bit more advanced stuff, and I'm going to design a drone frame. This way you can also use your creativity to design your own drone frame. Okay? So, see you next time in the next video. Thank you.